I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise, treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together. Every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. I'm not afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. You've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the mountain is the God of the valley. There's not a place your mercy and grace won't find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, you turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn boats into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our final music and conversation. Nothing is better than a little understanding of how deeply loved we are by God, each one of us. But sometimes we forget that. We let the world tell us who we are. We feel pressured to define ourselves through our jobs, financial status, successes, grades, appearance. But what would it look like to base our identity on the way God sees us? What if, when we think of who we are, the first thing that comes to mind is how we're loved by God? 1 John 3:1 says, "See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. It's amazing, the freedom and confidence that comes from understanding the significance, the fullness of God's eternal promise. Fullness of eternal promise, stirring in your sons and daughters, earth revealing heaven's wonders. Spirit come, Spirit come. What you spoke is now unfolding. All your children shall be holding, dreams awaken in this moment. Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Now the world awaits your presence, and this power is within us. We will rise to be your witness. Spirit come, Spirit come. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Pour it out, let your love run over. Here and now, let your glory fill this house. Come and fill this house, Lord. Your spirit, your presence. We await you, Lord. We await you, Lord. Oh, tongues of fire, testifying of the Son. One desire. Spirit come, Spirit come. Speak revival. Prophesy like it is done. One desire. Spirit come, Spirit come. Spirit come. Let our hearts continue burning, for our King is soon returning. As we hold to this assurance, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come, Spirit come.
I keep fighting voices in my mind that say I'm not enough. Every single lie that tells me I will never measure up. than just the sum of every high and every low. Remind me once again just who I am, because I need to know. You say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. You say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe the only thing that matters now is everything you think of me. In you I find my worth, in you I find my identity. Ooh, oh, you say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. You say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Taking all I have and now I'm laying it at your feet. You'll have every failure, God. You'll have every victory. You say I'm loved when I can't feel a thing. You say I'm strong when I think I'm weak. You say I'm held when I am falling short, and when I don't belong. Oh, you say I'm yours, and I believe. Oh, I believe what you say of me. I believe. Oh, I believe. Yes, I believe what you say of me. I
When it feels like surgery and it burns like third degree, and you wonder, why is it worth? When your inside's breaking in and you feel that ache again, and you wonder what's giving birth. If you can let the pain of the past go, of your soul, none of this is in your control. If you could only let your guard down, if you could learn to trust me somehow, I swear that I won't let you go. If you could only let go your doubts, if you could just believe in me now, I swear that I won't let you go. I won't let you go.
this currency, and you feel that urgency. You want peace, but there's war in your head. And maybe that's where life is born, when our facades are torn. Pain gives birth to the promise ahead. Yeah, if you can let the pain of the past go of your soul, none of this is in your control. If you could only let your guard down, if you could learn to trust me somehow, I swear that I won't let you go. If you could only let go your doubts, if you could just believe in me now, I swear that I won't let you go. I won't let you go. Yeah. Always be by your side. If you could only let go your doubts, if you could just believe in me now, I swear that I won't let you go. 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 There ain't no darkness strong enough that can tear you out from my heart. No, there ain't no strength that's strong enough that can tear this love apart. Yeah, there ain't no darkness strong enough that can tear you out from my heart. No, there ain't no strength that's strong enough that can tear this love apart. Never gonna let you go. Never gonna let you go. I won't let you go.
Welcome to the third installment of Music and Conversation. I'm Caitlin King, one of the co-directors of youth ministry here, and Michael's boss, the other co-director of youth ministry.
Today we're going to talk about identity. And what does identity look like when you become a Christian? So Caitlin, when you think about identity, what comes to mind?
So when I think about identity, I think about kind of who we are at the root. What is our foundation? If you stripped away everything, what would really identify us? And kind of origin, where we come from. What makes us who we are?
It's interesting. What were you gonna say?
What do you think of when you think of identity?
Well, it's interesting that you talk about the things that we identify ourselves with. Mm-hmm. Because it's easy for us to insulate ourselves with identifiers. Mm-hmm. To talk about, well, I am a retired veteran who is now a corporate executive and so you've kind of insulated yourself and identified yourself with these things. But in the Christian world, those things are kind of stripped away. You know, Paul says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave nor free. Mm-hmm. And so we're getting to this spot where the identity of which you have, whether you were a Pharisee or whether you were a bonded servant, no longer matters. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's interesting that the identity we have is the essence of what we're trying to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think about if we take away all of those things that we define ourselves with, if we take away our titles, our degrees, our relationships, then who are we? And I think about the idea of where we come from. And so as Christians, we know and can identify with that we are made in the image of God, that God created us, that we were made from dust, and that there was a plan for our lives. So I think that knowing where we come from is a huge indicator of knowing what our identity is and what we can rest in. So what's at the foundation of who we are as Christians? What are if you had to say the most simple, stripped away things about being a Christian, what do you feel is at the essence of being a Christian?
I would say that the essence of being a Christian is love. And we use Christ as the example of that love, right? Even the Bible defines God as love. And so I think for Christians, our identifier as love and as operating out of the gravitas of love makes an impact on how we are identified in the world.
So kind of what would people in the world notice about your life, maybe without words? How would people identify you as a Christian? What is it about our lives that people need to see to know we're Christians? What would you use as a descriptor?
I would go to Galatians 5 and talk about the fruit of the Spirit.
Okay.
So if the life that I am living is portraying the fruits of the Spirit to the world, then I feel like we are living in an identity rooted in Christ.
So something that I think about is more so the idea of my identity being individualistic versus communal. And I think a switch that takes place when we become new creations in Christ is that communal aspect, being part of something bigger than ourselves and knowing our need for community. And knowing that our identity rests in how we take care of one another. What would you say in terms of what identifies us as a community?
I would, ideally, I would go back to the fruits of the Spirit, because those exist both individually and communally. And I think one of the things I think modern Christianity has gotten wrong is that salvation is purely individual. And that the point of church is to save myself. But the point of becoming a Christian is, you brought this up, that becoming a new creation, the Greek word metanoia, you're changing into who you are, right? You're renewing your mind. You're becoming something new and something that exists in the realm of existence in the kingdom of heaven. So when was it in your life that you were first confronted with this idea of creating a new identity in Christ, being a new person in Christ?
I think in high school is when I became committed to my identity in Christ, and really not fully understanding what that meant, but I think my idea then was more about, as an individual, I am a Christian, and these are the things that it looks like for me to live that out. And for me, that really meant I was super self-righteous and judgmental, and you were there for it, you know. But those things kind of came out of me living in this individualistic way, where I didn't have community around me kind of helping me grow out of that very beginner that beginner's place in my faith. But now I think about how my identity in Christ, I'm a new creation, so I'm forgiven, I'm loved, I'm accepted. things that I think are really hard for us to wrap our minds around. But knowing those things as a Christian, but knowing them as a community too. So knowing that my identity is not just about me, it's about us as an entire body. It's about us as a Christian church. And what does our identity look like to those on the outside? Do people want to be part of what we're doing or not?
I think what you kind of bring up a good point as far as
I kind of bring up a good point?
you
Okay,
bring
go ahead. Go ahead.
you bring up a good point when you talk about the identity being a deeper understanding of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, I think we have to know and recognize and acknowledge and accept our positive characteristics and our negative characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the reasons I enjoy the Enneagram, is because the Enneagram will show you the side of yourself that you've been trying to forget.
Mm-hmm.
They call it the shadow side.
Yeah.
And so I think for your identity to grow, for you to grow into a fuller identity in Christ, you have to acknowledge and embrace the shadow side of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
so that you can grow and work against those innate things in your personality.
Yeah, I think if we want to grow as Christians and grow towards that, and grow towards our identity truly being in Christ and less of ourselves, we have to be self-aware enough to work on ourselves and to want more, to want to grow, to want to be challenged. And I think that really takes community and being okay with people coming alongside us and lovingly challenging us to grow and to be okay with that feedback that can help us change. And
that feedback, especially when it comes to identity, if you're pushing against, can be very abrasive.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel very abrasive. I've been listening to a podcast called Learning to See.
of course you have.
And in the first episode, they talked about biases and how we all have these biases to, I forget the name that he used, but it was basically the bias we have to believe things that are simple as opposed to complicated, and to believe things that already agree with and go with our way of seeing the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we are confronted with this new identity of Christ, and if we are confronted by, you are no longer that which you have defined yourself by, you are now defined by your belief and your living out the Christian example, that can be abrasive and that can be difficult. And I think that's one of the things that can cause a lot of problems with the whole idea of conversion.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are confronted with the exact opposite position you're in, and they are created in the image of God, and they hold that identity of being a Christian as well, then it's easy to become defensive because
Mm-hmm.
of our biases.
Absolutely. But if we go to that example that we have of Jesus in Philippians 2, of that humility and Jesus stepping down from a place of, power to take on the form of a slave, to take on the form of a servant. That example that we have was given to us for us to live out too. And it is not easy to be a humble person or to willingly seek humility. We naturally are defensive. We're naturally people who want to achieve and want to be known for the good in us. But we have to remember that is the example we have as a new creation. And Paul gives us that example in Philippians for such a great reason. we have to be, if we're going to be in community together, we have to be humble. We have to be willing to have someone come alongside us and say these things that we can be defensive about, but kind of stepping back and remembering the bigger picture, that my identity is in Christ, and this isn't about me. This is about the church, capital C, the church. And I think that's just hard as people, because we're human.
Yeah. So if you were to put it in one sentence, in one question, where do you think Christ is challenging us with the forms of identity, with an understanding of identity?
I think it's really about stripping away and being, I think it's just so much more simple than we make it. And so I would ask myself, what is it that I'm wanting to gain out of this? Is this beneficial for me and the community of Christ, or is this just about the way I want to be viewed and the way I want the world to see me? I think that's a lot of what we try to achieve, and when we try to meet certain status quo, we are hoping people will see us in that way. So I would ask myself, is this about me, or is this about showing the love of Christ to this community? That's a hard question.
So it sounds like philosophically, it's a stripping of your ego.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it.
It's a stripping of those things that you've used to give yourself validity and to make yourself feel valued, and to know that my true value and my true validity lies in Christ.
Yeah, our worth and our identity is in Christ. It's not in the things of this world. And God brings us to life in that. When we're chasing all those things in the world, that's exhausting. And when we can stop and remember why we're here, remember the bigger picture, I think as basic as it is, it's our worth and our identity is in Christ, and in how we care for one another.
We want to thank you for joining us on this third installment of Music and Conversation. It's been great to have this conversation on identity, and we look forward to doing this again.
I don't want to hear anymore. Teach me to listen. I don't want to see anymore. Give me a vision that you could move this heart to be set apart. I don't need to recognize the man in the mirror. I don't want to trade your plan for something familiar. I can't waste a day. I can't stay the same. I wanna be different. I wanna be changed till all of me's gone. Till all that remains is a fire so bright the whole world can see that there's something different. So come and be different in me. I don't want to spend my life stuck in a pattern. I don't want to gain this world, lose what matters. So I'm giving up everything because I want to be different. I want to be changed till all of me's gone. And all that remains is a fire so bright the whole world can see that there's something different. So come and be different. I know that I am far from perfect, I'm worth it. So take this beating in my heart and come and finish what you started. When they see me, let them see you, 'cause I just wanna be different. Yeah. I just wanna be different. I just wanna be changed till all of me is gone, and all that remains is a fire so bright the whole world can see that there's something different. So come and be